You are now watching the Amazin Mets Pregame Show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazin Mets Pregame Show. How is everybody doing today on this Saturday, May 11th? Game 2 of the series against the Atlanta Braves. And unfortunately, the Mets did lose 4-2 against the Braves. Quintana gave up multiple home runs to Albies, Acuna, Olsen. And it kind of was all she wrote for last night. The Mets couldn't put together any offense, only had 4 hits on the day. Jose Quintana pitched but you know what? When you can hold the Atlanta Braves to 4 runs, you should be able to win this ball game. To be completely honest with you, I mean, when you get 4 hits in the ball game, once again the Mets are lackluster at home offensively again, and that is the main problem that we continue to talk about with this team. Alonso had a couple of hits, 2 for 4. Lindor hit a home run, but other than that, it's been a problem. The offense has been a problem, and it's been a problem all season. Even, they had a little stretch where they were scoring 6 runs per ball game, but that didn't last very long. And that is where they have to figure out what they are going to do with this offense. They got to figure out something out. You can mix up the lineup all you want, but it's the same players. It is the same players that we continue to talk about, that at some point to surround the supporting cast of players, like the DJ Stewarts, like the Baders, the Beatties, guys like that, right now are not the biggest, guys that you expect to do major damage. It is the core guys that need to do the work here. Because at some point, the supporting cast is going to do what the supporting cast does. They're going to be lackluster at best and occasionally show up. That's when you need your core to show up and do the job. And that's the problem that we continue to have. And I'm going to continue to say it. And it's funny how Harrison Bader came out and talked about his playing time. Of course, at the same time, we had a report that came out that Alonso turned down a 7-year, $159 million extension, which, to be honest, is pretty fair considering the fact that he's not better than Freddie Freeman. He's not better than Matt Olson. And that's right in the range where both of them got paid. And I understand that, times change and, salaries go up. But you also have to perform when, look, with those 2 players, Matt Olson goes on a team, they get better, right? Freddie Freeman goes to the Dodgers, and he does what he's been doing. The thing is that as much as we talk about Pete Alonso and everybody wants him to be a Met, what has he done to make the team better? Right? I'm not saying this is basketball where you need Jalen Brunson to put the Knicks over the top, right? It's not, Artemi Panarin for the Rangers or Mika Zibanejad for the Rangers, stuff like that. But we can look at the individual numbers all we want, right? But when your team needs you, that's when you need to step it up. Not when things are going good and your numbers look good and it's like, oh, well, great. But when things are going bad, who do you turn to? You're not turning to Harrison Bader. You're not turning to anybody else that's a supporting cast. You turn into the guy who changes agents to Scott Boras, a guy who turned down a 7-year deal from the New York Mets. Oh, by the way, I guess he really doesn't want to be in New York, does he? Right? Because if you really do, that's a pretty good deal, considering the fact that you're going to be on the wrong side of 30 when you actually sign a contract. And guess what? Since you've been a New York Met, you've been a part of a losing franchise. And just because there's been different GMs, different managers, there's the same people that's been here during those different transitions, and it includes losing. with you a part of that. And that includes Brandon Nimmo. I'm putting Francisco Lindor in there, and I'm putting Jeff McNeil in there, right? I'm not going crazy. We're 18 and 19. We're right in the hunt of a wild card spot. It's not the end of the world. But you have to perform better. You give up only 4 runs to the Braves that can score to the best of them. They've been struggling to score runs over about the last 2-week stretch. I'm sorry, but giving up only 4 runs should be a win for the New York Mets. It should be. And we did nothing yesterday. Quintana gave up a couple of home runs, but it was 4 runs. Like, if you tell me before the game starts, we're going to hold the Braves to 4 runs, I'm going to be like, oh, great. We got a great chance to win. Well, we really didn't do anything until late in the game anyway. So, in my opinion, they got to score, right? I'm sick and tired of people making excuses for everything else. Like the offense isn't the biggest problem of this team. It's not the starting pitching. It is not the bullpen. We thought the thing that we can expect to be almost a guarantee is the offense, right? When I ranked them in the offseason based on bullpen, starting pitching, and offense, what is the least worrisome of the 3? I had the offense. That's a problem. Because they're number 3, they're number 1 as most concerning. The bullpen has been the best, and the starting rotation has been a lot better than probably 99% of Met fans thought. And games that we should be winning, we are not winning. The Mets should have over 20 wins right now, as me and Chris talked about on multiple pregame shows. That's a problem. Yeah, Paula, I understand the stadium might be too big, but you know what? There's other teams going in here. The Braves hit 3 home runs yesterday. What was the problem with the rest of the Mets? So it's not the ballpark. And it has nothing to do with, if the ballpark's too big, well, you know what? How about driving the ball in the gap, right? If it's that big, how about stringing together a couple of doubles? How about that? Right? That's where we are right now with the New York Mets. It is the offense. It is not the pitching. And until that changes, this team is going to hover around 500 the entire season when they should be better. Because you can't have a really good bullpen, a top 5 bullpen, and starting pitching that has been well above average, considering most people thought the rotation was lackluster and probably the biggest problem of this team. This team should be better, but the offense is holding it back. And that's the major problem. I just want to say what up to everybody in the chat. We got about 30 right now. We got Tom, NY Muck. We got Paula. We got Frank. We got Ernie. We have Carlos. We got Syracuse in the house. We got Star Wars. Duran, Anthony, Meech. How you doing? Star Wars, your Phillies are doing well. I got to calm Philly fans down a little bit because you face 2 500 teams, over 500 teams in the 30-plus games you played already. So, again, you beat the teams on your schedule, but when you face the better teams, I want to see how you fare out because you played a lot of the Marlins and you've played a lot of teams that are the bottom dwellers of baseball. But again, you win who's on your schedule. So I'm not going to go crazy because if it was flipped, Met fans would be going crazy. Even though you do have to look on who you played as well, right? The Mets have played over 25 games with teams well over 500. So, and they're around the 500 team. But the Phillies have been good. It's hard to take anything away from them. Easy, Steven, Daniel, what's up, guys? How you doing? Paul, let me just see something. Hold on. Yeah, Anthony. Because me and Chris set up an intro to our pregame show. That was usually saved for in-game live streams when I do it, and usually Mets Hot Stove during the off season. But don't worry, it'll come back. Yamid, how you doing? Yeah, but see, here's the problem though, Yamid. If the problem is these guys are not playing to their caliber. If they're playing to their caliber, they'd be scoring 5+ runs per game, just like they've done over the past 3-4 seasons. If you go back since 2021, they're a team that scores 5.5 runs per ball game. They're not doing that right now. They're barely over 3.5. That's the problem that with this Mets team. If you're scoring 4.5, between 4.5 and 5.5 runs per ball game, you're winning more games than not. They're under 4 runs per ball game over about 2-week stretch. You're not winning ball games like that. I don't care who you're pitching. That's the problem. Because it's not like the Mets are losing 9-1 and they're getting blown out by, other teams scoring a lot. They're losing games 4-2. Right? They're giving up 4 or 5 runs per ball game. Nothing crazy. And we're losing those ball games. Having leads that is something that the Mets have a hard time doing. And that goes back to the offense. It's not just that they're bad. They're not living up to their numbers, their career numbers. Jeff McNeil is a shell of himself. Pete Alonso is nowhere to be found offensively. He's been better as of late. But you know what? You're the guy that wants the most money on this team. You want to get paid like one of the best players in baseball, and you're not. You're a power. All Alonso is, and I think people forget about this, Alonso is the home run hitter. He's showing you now that average-wise, maybe that 250 is a fluke. Because if you cut his years in half, yeah, the first 2.5 years are really nice, but the other 2.5, he's a 230 hitter, 220 hitter. And he still doesn't hit with runners on base. And when you need that big home run, I'm telling you right now, I don't want Pete Alonso up in that spot because he never does it. Not enough. Because you can't have 6-7 home runs and have only 18, 19 RBIs. Because it's not like he hasn't had people on base. He has. When the pressure is on and there's men on base, you got to drive the ball. And I want to see Pete Alonso do that more. I'm sorry. With the 46 home runs Pete Alonso has for the, 40+ home runs, you need to have well over 120 RBIs. Because he has go back. If I'm not mistaken, I think when he was going through that terrible stretch, I think he had over 27 men left on base. I think he drove in one of those runs. You can't be the best player on a team or consider the best player on a team, the face of the franchise, and be that lackluster. I'm not saying you can't struggle. Every player struggles. Baseball, you fail more than you succeed. But you can't just be the guy that puts up individual numbers and at the end of the year, be like, oh, look at those numbers. But the same people who talk about Lindor's head and his stats, well, Pete Alonso does the same thing. Because I remember Pete Alonso from the trade deadline last year until the end of the year had his best numbers. But guess what? It didn't matter because there was no pressure because they were basically out of it. So before we jump to other players' head and stats, Pete Alonso is in that same group. So with that said, yeah, absolutely. Look, honestly though, yeah, but you know what, Syracuse, here's the problem. If you're looking at the runners and you're seeing the guys in front of them, Pete Alonso not getting on base, that is 100% false. That is not true. Maybe early on in the season, but for I would say about 25 games, 26 games, more than half, Pete Alonso has left a ton of people on base. And I'm not just talking about scoring position, runners on base. That's a problem. Yeah, easy. 7 years, 160. And that's the realm I was really looking for. 7 years is perfectly fine. I'm fine with that. I would even go up to probably 180 or so. But he don't want that. I guarantee you he's going to ask for about between 8 to 10 for somewhere around 230 to 250. And I'm not giving that to him. I'm sorry. I don't care. If you're a smart baseball fan, you're not giving that to Pete Alonso. You could do a lot of things with that money with multiple players to make this team better. Yeah, but Marte has been good for the majority of the year. So it's not like Marte hasn't been getting on base. Now, Lindor, I called out Lindor enough. But all we hear about from Met fans is about Lindor. How about talking about Alonso, right? Lindor is a guy that can hit 25 home runs and knock in 90 plus RBIs. He's going to do that. But you can't talk about padding his stats, and Pete Alonso doesn't do the same thing. Of course he does. Pogs, how you doing, buddy? I did get your text. I'm sorry I didn't respond, but I will text you back as soon as possible. And I did move, by the way. Yeah, Nimmo, but again, Nimmo's been fine. But again, Nimmo's a guy now that, is turning into not really a leadoff hitter anymore. He's a guy that's hitting well above average, which is great. His on base is down because Nimmo's he's driving the ball more than he ever did in his career. Like, he's not a punch and Judy hitter where he'll bat 260, but his on base, 250, and his on base percentage is extremely high. So he's just a different type of player now, which is fine. But Pete Alonso has enough people on base. He needs to drive in those runs. All right, guys. So the good news is that we got Christian Scott on the mound, his home debut at Citifield. He's going to wear them very sexy City Connect jerseys. Today, we got about a half hour until game time. I'm going to keep you around for another 10, 15 minutes or so. Just to go through the lineup a little bit. The Mets are facing Max Fried today. And I'm sorry, guys, but the Braves are beatable. I know they have a good record at 23-12. I understand that. But, again, they're another team. Do you see the majority of their runs, how they score them? Is home runs. Because they do nothing other than that. And that's the other thing, too. Because at least the Phillies, and I talk about the Phillies like they really haven't played really good teams, but they're not a big home run hitting team. They got guys that hit home runs, but they produce runs in different ways. That's why they're a little bit dangerous. The Braves are what they always been. They're a team that if you keep them in the ballpark, you give your team a very good chance to win. The Mets didn't do that yesterday. It was a couple of solo shots and then a 2-run homer, but you got to keep them in the ballpark. They're not very good at producing runs any other way. Yeah, Gary Cohen is a jinx. I know. I missed the late part of the game because I did have to go to work, unfortunately. But yeah, I know Gary Cohen is a jinx. So let's talk about Christian Scott. He had a really good performance in Tampa Bay. The Mets didn't give him any support, unfortunately. What else is new? But he's going against a Braves team. Look, excuse me. This is a big test for Christian Scott. One of the better lineups in baseball. He's a strikeout pitcher. And he's a guy that in the minors, he does give up his fair share of home runs. But he is a strikeout guy. He misses a lot of bats. And this is a great match. This is a great test for him. And I can't wait for the game tonight. I really can't wait for the game in about a half hour or so. Because I want to beat the freaking Braves. I'm so sick and tired of this Braves team. Right? They're just annoying. I just don't want to deal with them anymore. I know the Mets are not winning in the division. It's going to be either the Phillies or the Braves. But I just want to beat those teams. And what's frustrating is that the Mets had a chance to win yesterday. I mean, giving up only 4 runs to the Atlanta Braves should give your team an opportunity to win a ball game. We just don't score, man. We just don't freaking score. Before we get started about the lineup, make sure you hit on that like button, guys. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't make it today, but that's okay because I've missed a couple and he's held it down. So I always appreciate holding it down for him as well. So I just want to bring up something before we get into the lineup. The Rangers are going for a sweep of the Carolina Hurricanes today. I am currently in Carolina right now. So, all the crybaby Carolina Hurricane fans are hilarious, as I did wear my Ranger jersey today at work. So I pissed a lot of people off, which I love. So let's get the sweep today, and the Rangers can go to the Eastern Conference Finals. So the Mets lineup. Brandon Nimmo, Starla Marte, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, JD Martinez, Jeff McNeil, Harrison Bader, Brett Beatty, and Tomas Nido. Lineup's fine. Don't got no issue with it. I would love to see Martinez start driving that ball. Love to see him hit a home run, show some power here. He's been good average-wise. The power hasn't been there yet. I'm not concerned because he is hitting the ball hard, so I do like that JD Martinez is hitting the ball hard. His average is there. I think the power is going to come. And when that power comes, he is a dangerous guy to be in the middle of this lineup. Harrison Bader is Harrison Bader. Brett Beatty is Brett Beatty. And Tomas Nido is Tomas Nido. But 1 through 6 is fine. They just got to do the job. They got to play to the back to the baseball cards. If that doesn't happen, doesn't matter what the Mets do. And easy, the Mets have always, as long as I can remember, the Mets have looked mediocre starting pitching, make them look like Cy Young. I remember when I was little guy, I remember the Mets couldn't score against guys I never heard of. It's been that way forever. I can't fix it. I don't know. I wish I knew. I'd be paid by the New York Mets right now if I knew, but we didn't. Pogs, I do appreciate the super chat, buddy. I always appreciate LFGM. Hope you are enjoying where you moved to, close enough to catch a Mets game. Yeah, baby, go Rangers. Absolutely. Well, I'm in North Carolina. Obviously, there's no MLB club here, obviously, but Atlanta is not too far away. DC is not too far away. So, again, I'm going to travel around the country. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. It's been a long morning. I'm going to travel around the country as well to go to games as well. I'm going to try to hit up Texas maybe in June. I'm going to try that when the Mets go to Texas as well. So I'm going to make sure of that. But Pogs, I always appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. I always appreciate it. Oh, yeah, I agree, guys. I think Brett Beatty would have never been the third baseman if Ronnie Mauricio was healthy. It's just very simple. Who knows? The Mets might have traded Jeff McNeil if Ronnie Mauricio was healthy, and maybe Brett Beatty plays third base. Collins gang, what's up, buddy? The Back It Up Binge Podcast. Let's go Mets. I know you're an Orioles fan, and the Orioles are kicking ass right now. Just as long as you beat the Yankees, makes me feel better. So I'm going to be here for another about 5 minutes or so, guys. Got to do some things around the apartment and all that fun stuff. But I like the lineup. It's going to be great to see Christian Scott at home. Mets fans, there was a really good crowd at Citifield last night. There'll probably be a nice crowd tonight, even though, I'm sorry, guys. Even though it's been cold, not cold, but like chilly in New York, it hasn't really been spring weather yet for the most part. And the Mets have had just shitty weather in Citifield this season, and it sucks for the fans. It's already cold, and there's always wind at Citifield because of the water. But, it would be nice if you get a couple of nice days in a row to enjoy a Mets game. Yep, Star Wars, the Mets Phillies are going to London. Unfortunately, I had everything set up to go. Now I can't go because I went through the move and everything like that. The move happened quicker than I thought it was going to happen. So it kind of put me in a situation where I'm just going to go. I gave away my tickets to somebody else I know who's going. So it sucks. I wish I could have went to London and see the Mets and the Phillies, but life happens and you got to deal with it. Baseball is a hobby and it's a passion, but sometimes life puts you in a different direction. So let's see. 18. I think they should swap Beatty and McNeil. It's not like either one of them are really, not going to cover off the ball, so I'm not going to go crazy about it. I think you can go either way. I'm not going to get mad either way. Sanders, if he allows 3 hits, 10 strikeouts, 7 innings, the Mets better win that ball game because I'm going to be here tomorrow talking about the damn offense once again. Because the biggest problem is the offense, guys. It's not a secret. The Mets should have over 20 wins right now. They should be at the least like 21, 22, and like 16 or 17. That's where they should be. Because there's games that the offense completely, spit the bit, winning ball game. So that's unfortunate, but they got to get going. If the core guys play to the back of the baseball cards, not in July, not in August and September when the Mets are out of it, but in the April through June months when it really could put you in, behind an 8 ball. How about this, guys? How about stepping up and not giving your GM a choice about a trade deadline where you're sellers? How about that? Because there's too many times where we're kind of in between and now the GM has to make a decision. And no matter what decision that GM makes, half the fans agree, half the fans don't. Like last year, right? The Mets, I believe, were either 5 or 6 games out of a wild card spot, and Billy Epper decided to become sellers. A lot of people were pissed off. But it didn't matter because the team wasn't good enough. It's just that simple. The pitching was nowhere near where it should have been. And the Mets offense wasn't very good. And the big guys started to pick it up after the trade deadline when it didn't matter. So easy. I saw the headline of the Joel Sherman article, but I didn't read it. And somebody messaged it to retweeted it to me, and I'm going to read it when I'm done with this. Let's see. I do like the pop from Beatty, absolutely. Give me one sec, guys. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss any of the comments. All right, so yeah, it's coming back to the same thing. The Mets score on average, which is middle of the pack. If they can score 4.5 to 5 runs per ball game, they're winning more games than they're not. It's just very simple. I know I keep going back for the offense, but that's the main problem. You can't have 4 hits against Charlie Morton, who is about 97 years old. Like, I'm sorry, you just can't. And this goes for JD Martinez, goes for McNeil, goes for Martin Nimmo and all those guys as well. Nimmo has been really good, so it's hard to kill him. But I want to see the big guys take over games. Like yesterday, who took over the games for the Braves? It was Acuna, Albies, Olsen, the mainstays, the big guys, the core guys. How many games this year have the Mets won because of Bader and Beatty? Right? I mean, even Marte for that matter. Like it's a problem. Like you can't have your supporting cast win more games for you, and your core guys are going for are along for the ride. Just can't happen, guys. All right, guys. Luz, how you doing? Gotta say that Alonso rumor threw me for a loop. Time to say goodbye. Yeah. Oh, you see how many Met fans are a little pissed off because didn't Pete Alonso say, "I want to be a New York Met"? Well, guess what? That extension came out, and you declined it. So are Met fans slowly turning on Pete Alonso? Because he did say he wanted to be a New York Met. 7 years, 159. I think that's a pretty fair deal, considering the best first baseman in the league are around that salary. Why should you be getting 70, 80, 60, 70, 80 million dollars more? No, I'm sorry. You're just not better than those guys. And you shouldn't get paid that much more than those guys. Now, if it's like $10 million or so, even $20 million more than the Olsens and the Freemans got, I'll live with it. But 7 years, I'm not going more than that. I said that plenty of times. And there's no way in hell I'm giving him over $200 million because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, Carlos, but you know what? Again, the agent works for the player. If Pete Alonso wants to be a Met, it's not like the Mets threw him a 5-year, $120 million deal. 7 years for 160. I'm sorry. That's a deal that you're stupid not to take. Because if Alonso has a bad season, the Mets ain't giving him that offer that they offered him. I'll tell you that right now. Well, it's not even about the glove because you don't pay these guys for gloves, all right? You just don't, right? It's all about the offense 99% of the time. I'm not saying Pete Alonso is a bad offensive player. He's not. But your team has done a lot of losing while you're the face of this franchise. Individual stats are great, but until you help this team be better, it's not like these guys that they're putting around them are scrubs. Because you just gave them a contract, you traded for Lindor and gave him a contract, and you also gave Jeff McNeil a contract. So the core guys that have been with Alonso are signed. You're losing with them. Yeah, 18, I understand Olsen with the gold gloves, but he got that money because of his offense. Let's be honest about that. And again, no, it's not about overpaying. It's just that you got to look at the market. And Pete Alonso is not the best first. If he was the best first baseman in baseball, then I could see you turning down that deal because you want more money than Freeman and Olsen. But you're not better than them. You're not better than Freddie Freeman right now. You're just not. As an overall player, you're not. You're not better than Olsen. Yet you want to get paid more than him? Makes no sense. So we'll see how that goes. That's down the road. At least by the trade deadline, we'll see where the Mets are at that. But Christian Scott is on the mound against Max Fried. The Mets lose game one of the series 4-2. Mets are 18-19, look to get back to 500. Let's score some damn runs for Christian Scott. I have a feeling that he's going to be very good today. And I don't want him to be trying to put up zeros because the Mets can't freaking score. I want him to put up zeros while the Mets give him a lead. So with that said, guys, another amazing Mets pregame in the books. Appreciate everybody who hung out with me on this about half-hour pregame show on a Saturday. I know it's where I am. It's about 75 degrees. Not bad, but oh yeah, Syracuse, absolutely. Give me 1 second. Let me just hold on 1 second. I'm gonna give you my email. All right, Syracuse, that's my email in the comment right there. Let me if you write that down, just send me an email and I'll send you my information so we can get some stuff on that wall. And guys, if you want to have some stuff, if you have some old stuff, new stuff you're not really using, but you want to get posted stuff on the back of the wall, please do. I will put your stuff up and I'll make sure everybody knows that you gave it to me as well. So Syracuse, please email me. The email is right here. I'll put it on the screen to make it easier. MetsFan813@gmail.com. Email me. I'll send you my information and you can send me stuff and I'll put some stuff on the wall. I do. Again, I'm in the process of doing it. I got a cool 1986 World Series picture plaque that I'm going to put on the wall and stuff like that. I'm going to move my camera back a little bit so we get more wall space and all that fun stuff. So once again, guys, I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's go Mets today. Christian Scott on the mound. Let's get a W against the goddamn Atlanta Braves and go into tomorrow with the rubber game and try to win another series and win the second series against the Braves of the season. So with that said, guys, Amazin Mets pregame show in the books. Let's go Mets. I'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night. Let's go Mets. See you next time, guys.